Spring football is on its way in a few weeks. And of course, the quarterback battle is going to be front and center, Anthony. We don't have enough playing time, enough reps or attempts on the field in meaningful games, in any games at all between these three guys.
Yeah.
But they're all highly regarded: Carson Beck, Brock Vandagriff, and Gunnar Stockton. Can
Yeah.
you give us a feel for what they do differently and how their styles are different?
Yeah. Carson has played the most of the three, like you mentioned. He got some trash time this past year, and when he played, he was very effective. I mean, then again, it was against team's third team, and games were out of hand, and that sort of thing. So I'm not sure if it's a clear picture of how good he can be. I think he's very good, but you with Bobo coming as offense coordinator, he's a big fan of Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton, a guy who set the state of Georgia, passing record a couple of years ago at Raven County High School. A guy can run, he can make plays with his legs. Same thing for Brock Vandagriff, as well. So I'm really interested to see kind of how this all plays out. I think Carson will go in it as going to spring practice as the number one, but I think this is going to be for the first time in a number of years at Georgia a real live quarterback competition. Something we have not been able to say, really since Kirby Smart has been here. And again, you mentioned the differences in the three guys. I think Brock and Gunnar are probably a little more similar. Gunnar, I think, has a stronger arm than Brock, or Brock, maybe more of a cerebral type, QB. Where Carson can he can do it all too. He's not is doesn't make as many plays with his legs as those other two young men, are apt to do. But he's not a statue back there either. He has made some good throws.
We're breaking down the dogs here at the Voice of College Football. We got Anthony Dasher on the line. We appreciate him stopping by to talk Georgia football with us. You can catch Anthony's work at UGAsports.com on Rivals. We'll go to the running back position, which has arguably been the best in college football for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever time frame you want to put on it. Of course, so Kenny McIntosh, he moves on, and you got the other three coming back in Edwards, Robinson, and Milton. They ran for about 1,700 yards. The one area where, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, of course, McIntosh caught 43 balls out of the backfield, and you really had to watch him catch the ball out of the backfield more than just go to the stat sheet. That might be a missing component here, or do you feel good about the other three guys coming out of the backfield?
No, I agree with you. I think Dejon Edwards has that capability, maybe not to the extent of what Kenny did last year, but he can catch the ball at the backfield, and Kendall Milton has improved in that area. It's not his strength, but I'm sure that's something we'll see in spring. They really try to make a concerted effort to try to get him, to improve. Branson Robinson, was a freshman last year, had a great game in the championship game when everything was out of hand like it was, scored a couple of touchdowns. And Roderick Robinson, the true freshman early enrollee, is a big dude. I mean, 6'1", 245 pounds, will be getting a look. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you'll see Georgia's backs catch the ball quite with the efficiency as they have the past 2 years with James Cook and Kenny, but that's still going to be a big part of the offense. And I think Dejon and Kendall will be able to do a decent job.
How would you size up these three? And you mentioned even the incoming freshmen in regards to their roles, what they do well, who's the burner, who's the pounder between these guys?
Yeah, I think Dejon, even though he's not the biggest back, is probably the more of a pounder than anything else. He does a great job of running in between the tackles. Whereas Kendall Milton, who is 6'1", 225 pounds, can really do it all. He just got to stay healthy. I mean, he's been bothered, had meniscus issues each of his first 3 seasons, but when he's healthy, he can make some things happen. And I would probably wager a bet right now that when the season starts, he's going to be the main running back. But again, as we've seen from Georgia, they will play 2, 3, sometimes even 4 guys during the course of a game. And all those backs I mentioned are going to get plenty of opportunities to show what they can do.
We got Anthony Dasher on the line breaking down the dogs a few weeks out from spring practice. Let's talk offense. Let's talk wide receivers, Anthony. We've got Kyrus Jackson moving on. A.D. Mitchell decided to go to Texas. But other than that, it appears just about everybody's coming back. If you want to extend, obviously, to the tight end position, Darnell Washington has entered the NFL draft as well.
Yeah, even with those guys that Georgia has lost, I think it's going to be a pretty good group. I'll start at wide receiver. Ladd McConkey has been a wonderful player for Georgia. He's a guy who only had only FBS offer he had come out of high school was from Georgia, and he led the team in reception as far as wide receivers go last year. Has become just one of the better playmakers, in the SEC. Georgia also went to the transfer portal. They did add Dominic Lovett from Missouri, who averaged, I think, 17 yards per catch. Had a lot of big play potential as a slot guy. They did bring in Ray Thomas. Ray ran in some legal issues, about a month ago, and although he's still a member of the team, I'm not sure kind of what his status is. He's going to have to jump through some hoops to get some things cleared up before he gets on the field. I think he ultimately will, but and it may take a few games before we see Ray this year. But otherwise, Georgia still has Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint played a lot last year. Arian Smith, who's the fastest guy on the team, made some big catches against Ohio State and TCU in the playoffs. Is returning. They've got guys like Jackson Meeks. They've got some freshmen they brought in. 3 guys who really add to the speed component at wide receiver. So I think Georgia's going to be in good shape, even with some of the guys they lost. Of course, tight end Brock Bowers is, I'm not sure what kind of adjectives I can throw at you to describe the job he's done. His, first couple of years, seen people mention him as a potential Heisman candidate next year. I'm not, sure if I go that far or not, but he is obviously one of the best I've ever seen since covering Georgia. And they've got a sophomore Oscar Delp, who's you saw some decent playing time last year. I think he'll be a good contributor to you. So Georgia still has plenty of weapons. Some names we'll be getting to learn a little bit more of here in spring and early preseason, but I don't think the Bulldogs have anything to be concerned about from that regard.
Yeah, hopefully things get cleared up, and the Thomas situation is, we all want justice, of course, but
Sure.
He had 7 touchdown receptions at Mississippi State, and you mentioned Lovett, Dominic Lovett at Missouri. He was a top 5 wide receiver in the SEC in terms of yardage. So the rich get richer, but they bring in 2 of the best in the conference, and they'll just be added to the mix.
Yep.
Anthony, as we look at the offensive line, of course, unfortunately, Devin Willock passed away on January 15th. He had a couple starts for the team. So that's just an unthinkable situation that happened there. As we look on the field, Broderick Jones moves on. Warren McClendon, one of the best in the business, moves on as well. Your thoughts about offensive line, and if you think that they're fairly set, or are they going to continue to mix and match and try to figure things out up front?
Well, they'll always try to mix and match and cross-train guys, but I think they're relatively set as far as the starters go. I mean, Georgia is very fortunate to have Amarius Mims, who's goes 6'6", 330 pounds, slide in at right tackle. Amarius has played a lot last 2 seasons, for his first 2 seasons, and I think he's got a potential to be a really dominating tackle type guy. I think he'll probably remain on the right side. That's just where he seems to be more comfortable, which is going to leave left tackle is really the only spot open. Right now, it looks like it's going to be redshirt freshman Ernest Green, who missed came in last year, had some injuries, had back surgery about middle of the season, but he's healthy now, and I think he'll probably get the first shot at that. If he doesn't win, then maybe somebody like Austin Blasky, who's been with the program now for 3 years, gets a look there. But otherwise, I mean, getting Cedric Van Pran to come back for one more season at center was huge. I mean, he's going to be just a tremendous boon for whoever's going to be the quarterback. We'll have a center who has played dozen games in the SEC, won a couple of titles. It's going to be somebody they really lean on, not just on the offensive line, but as far as the entire, team, as well. Right guard, they've got, Tate Rowledge is back. Left guard, Xavier Truss. But they got to develop some depth. And that's probably the biggest thing. You got is a couple of freshmen, early enrollees that are going to get a chance, I think, to work their way into the 2 deep. Micah Morris is a guard who's had some injury problems. It's his 3rd year in the program, but he's got a lot of potential. I think he'll have a chance. But getting depth, I think they've got players. They've just got to figure out which one's going to fit where. But as far as the starting off at the front goes, I still think they got a chance to be very, very good.
Usually one of the best in the nation. So I guess there's little to think that that won't happen again this year, as long as they all stay healthy, or relatively healthy. Everybody gets hurt at some point along the offensive front, but Do they feel confident with 7 or 8 deep at this point?
Yeah, that's the question. They would like, I think, it to be probably about 10 deep, to be honest with you. I mean, we just have a straight 2 deep across the board. And I think they'll get to that. Like I said, some of the freshmen they're bringing in, I think, have a lot of potential. Freeling and as another kid, his name escapes me right now, that I think will make some very good tackles for Georgia down the road. And that's probably the position. The tackle position is the one they really need to upgrade more so than the guards, because they got a lot of guard types at UGA right now.
There we go, folks. Check out Anthony's work at UGAsports.com on Rivals. Anthony, we always appreciate you stopping by.
My pleasure.